Hey, so we are going to be, cheers. We're going to be walking around with Peter, the owner, and he's going to tell us all about the history of this bar. Peter, the owner. There we go.
All right. So, the history of what makes this bar historically significant starts before 1947, actually in like 1937. If you look at this, this is the Northern California Gypsy Tour at Bellado Park, which is just down Highway 25. And if you look across here, there's a whole group of women that are in a motorcycle club. They're actually sitting on their motorcycles. You'll see them in between all the people.
Is that motormaids?
Might have been. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm unaware.
Okay.
Well, this is men and women motorcycle clubs that were there, and they were part of a thing called the Gypsy Tour. This was Indian and Harley. They used to participate in little events and things like that. And this had made its way into everybody's mind by the 40s. So now from here, we have to go over here.
Okay.
No, you're good. You're good. So now let's go into like 1930 when we had World War, the end of World War I. We realized that our cavalry was men on horses, and we also ran into mustard gas. So at the end of 1930, we realized as we were going into World War II, we didn't have the time to train the horses. We didn't want to send the horses into a known mustard gas scenario, and so we needed a mechanized cavalry. So the United States government issued a thing to Indian and Harley and said we want a mechanized cavalry. You see the guys that are riding right there, King James style, which is back in Roman era. They used to ride exactly like that. That's kind of where that came from, and that's why motorcycle clubs still ride that same way. It comes from 1947. So the contract went out, and they said we need a 500cc motorcycle. Indian came out with a 500cc motorcycle as requested, said, we can have the guys fix it. Harley Davidson came out with a 750cc motorcycle, and that changed everything. They went with Harley Davidson. Right there, right to our top of you. So Harley Davidson won the contract over Indian, and that's why everybody rides Harleys rather than Indians. Yep, those guys. So 1945, you've got everybody in the war and everything like that. 1947, you had the end of the war when everybody was able to buy pieces of a Harley Davidson that were shipped back over in a basket. That's where the basket case Harley comes from. So for $5, a vet could buy a crate with a bunch of parts in it that you could build a motorcycle out. It might have 2 engines, might have had 2 frames, might have had 4 wheels in it, but you could build one whole motorcycle out of that crate. It was $5, which is where basket case Harley comes from, because each one of these were sold to vets for $5 in a basket case, and they could put them back together. Now these guys rode back into what was the Gypsy Tour event that had been going on here since 1937, wanted to participate in that event, but they were kicked out because they had undiagnosed PTSD, they had the wrong gear, wrong helmet, wrong, whatever, and so they were kicked out of the event. So what ended up happening is one of the guys that was actually an Air Force pilot that was riding with one of the booze fighters had rolled up to the event and said, "I'm as good as any of these riders here," and grabbed one of the trophies and rode away with it. The rest of the guys went chasing after him like, "Hey man." So that's where the start of the movie The Wild One with Marlon Brando came from. But before that, you have this picture right here. See where it says Media Frenzy?
Yeah.
Staged.
So, that guy's name is Eddie Davenport. He's a bus driver. He does not own that bike. That picture was staged. If you look closely at those negatives, which I got from the San Francisco Chronicle, you can see in one he's holding up a motorcycle jacket and all the beer things are lined up, and then the other one they're all knocked over. Now there's a reason why there were so many beer bottles in front of here, because back then, you remember Laverne and Shirley?
Yes.
They used to recycle the beer bottles and send them back. So everybody used to return their beer bottles. So all the vets, when they left town, they returned all the beer bottles to the bar. They were all sitting in the front, and they staged them for that photograph. So you had this, which cycled Life magazine. Then after that, you had the Wild One. And so the guys that were here were Air Force pilots and Army guys and everything like that. Army, why we invade your space for just just telling the history here. Yeah. So that's That's Wino Willie Faulkner. He grew up on a vineyard, and he got the name Wino because as a kid he liked to drink wine more than beer. And so he consulted on the film, The Wild One, with Marlon Brando and Lee Marvin. And he actually was more of Lee Marvin's character, the guy that said, hey, you stole that. Anybody can steal it. If you stole it, come back to the fold. And if you watch the movie twice, you realize Marlon Brando was a bit of a bully. And Lee Marvin was just his friend who was trying to get him to come back into the fold. From there, you had all these exploitation movies that came out: Devil Rider, Easy Rider, Killers on Wheels, Devil's Angels, Hellcats. And then finally, the American Motorcycle Association in 1960 issued a statement. 99% of people you meet on motorcycles are really nice people. It's just that 1% that gives us a bad reputation, which was lovingly adopted by everybody with a three-piece patch. So in 1995, Sonny Barger came up to the city of Hollister and said, hey, in 1997, you're going to be at the 50-year anniversary. We can throw a big party. You can make a bunch of money off it. They said, we don't want to have anything to do with you. You're a Hell's Angel. Mike Corbin, whose name's on the back of every one of these seats, had just built $1 million motorcycle factory here and was beseeched by Sonny to do something about it. Mike went to the city council and said, hey, why have I built a $15 million motorcycle factory here to build motorcycle seats if you're not going to do this? So the city council said, well, put up the money. So Mike Corbin himself put up the first $1.3 million to hold the rally. In 1996, they had a pre-rally. 30,000 people showed up to it. In 1997, 63,000 people showed up to it. They've been trying to shut it down ever since. My tenure came from Hawaii. I bailed a guy out of a bar fight, turned out to be the owner's brother. And I was introduced to this bar in 2002 as a security specialist. So 2002, 3, 5, 8, 12, 15, 17, I was flown in here to do security here at this bar. And we never had a fight, never had a problem. In 2018, I bought the bar, and I've owned the bar for about 8 years now.
Nice. That was right. Nice.
And I've been aging in dog years ever since.
Yeah, that's right. That's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that history.
Funny story about this down here.
Oh.
So, in 2020, when we had COVID, we were shut down. We weren't allowed to have anybody in here. It was July 4th weekend, and they were about to shut me down the next day. A friend of mine named Dave Blake, they used to be a cop. They did the very first burnout inside this bar. When they opened, this used to be an optometry office, and they opened this wall. Dave did a burnout on that bike. Dave and I were standing right where you and I are standing right now. There's a little bit of alcohol involved. And he said, I bet you won't do a burnout in your bar on my bike. I literally said, hold my beer, brought his bike in, said, ladies and gentlemen, the bar's closed. You're staying in at your own recognizance. I'm about to do something and make a little mural on the ground. I did that first burnout, which is closest to the bar. A couple days later, Wino Willie's grandson came in and said, this is Wino Willie's last bike that was ever built for him. I'd be honored if you did a burnout on his bike. I did a second burnout there. I got chewed out by the city council.
That's a great story. That's a great story.
So this has been a great piece of American history, because when you really think about it, the guys that helped us win our freedom in World War I, World War II, especially World War II, those guys came back to this town on Independence Day and they were summarily kicked out. They were painted out to be bad guys.
Yeah.
They didn't recognize the fact that some of these guys had been through war. They were a little rough around the edges and everything. Like, they just treated them like they were assholes.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes through to a lot of us that ride motorcycles, is we look like tough guys, so they treat us like we're all tough guys. They treat us like we're all out of prison. And so this really is the birthplace of that, where that whole thing started, because the misconception of people on motorcycles started with veterans who helped us win our freedoms coming back here to participate in an event on 4th of July weekend were kicked out of town. These are the guys that won World War II for us, gave us our freedom on the day that we're supposed to celebrate our freedom, and they were treated like shit. So me owning this bar is a little bit of a fuck you to anybody who would treat vets like shit. And motorcyclists like shit, because a lot of us are really good people. And a lot of us just love riding. We get why we ride. It's like zen to us. We get that whole being on two wheels and everything like that. It's therapy to us. But that tough guy thing, that 1% thing, has been glued on to everybody, whether it applies or not, and we get stigmatized by it. So those associations and those stereotypes are painted on us just because we're on two wheels.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I love inviting people into the bar, because I love breaking that stigmata. I have a Harley and I also have a BMW GS 1250. I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. I love being on two wheels. I rode from here all the way to Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, slapped a Johnny's Bar and Grill sticker up there and rode back. I'm not one of those guys that has to, be a tough guy to be on a motorcycle.
Yes.
People like us ride because we get the therapy aspect of it, and it's one of the things that, I'll just say this, I've never seen a motorcycle in front of a therapist's office.
That's right. That's right.
I have,
right.
but that's because it was.
You were there.
No, because it was the therapist's motorcycle.
Because it was the therapist's motorcycle. There you go.
I have a friend
100%.
who's a therapist, and he rode with our. This was when I was in Arizona.
But it is
And
such
he rode with
amazing
our
therapy. I mean, we
group.
process so many things when we're on two wheels. Being in a state of flow really helps the mind break things down and process things. And those who ride understand, and those who don't will never really get it. And
True that.
for those who do ride, for those who do understand that those people who needed that kind of therapy were
Yeah.
seeking it, and they were stigmatized because of it, my God, is this not Mecca for that particular moment?
Well, I'm definitely going to be here for your rally, for the 4th of July rally.
It'll be fun.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. All right, well, thank you so much, Peter, for all the wonderful information about your bar. It's wonderful. It's great. So thank you so much. All right, we'll see you later.
Turn the camera around.
All right, here. Let me get a selfie of the three of us.
Peace out.